today's the day that last week is really built up to for the Chicago Bulls, in which they take on the Miami Heat in a battle of the 9th and 10th seeds in the Eastern Conference. The winner goes on to face the Atlanta Hawks for a chance to enter the Eastern Conference playoffs as the 8th seed. We'll take a look at that. Plus, one of the best compliments to Buzelis just officially declared for the draft. We're going to take a look at that as well and dive into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And the Bulls take on the Miami Heat today, and this is a matchup that is going to be a fun matchup. This game could go a lot of different ways when it comes down to it for the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat for that matter. And you know that Erik Spoelstra's coming in and having his guys ready. The Miami Heat are focused, right? One of the locker room messages for them was that any day is the day. Like, today is the day, right? Take the moment, right? And so Erik Spoelstra's already rallying his locker room together. He's really amazing at doing that. And I expect to see the best version possible of the Miami Heat today against the Chicago Bulls. And this is going to be a big matchup, right? Yes, the Chicago Bulls are 3-0 against the Miami Heat this season, but that really doesn't mean anything. In the 2022-23 season, the Chicago Bulls were also 3-0 against the Miami Heat and beat them by an average of almost 14 points in those games and still went on to lose in the play-in. Now, these are two teams that are very different drastically when you look at the construction of their roster, right? No Jimmy Butler on the other side for the Miami Heat, no Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan on this side for the Chicago Bulls. And how that plays off is part of the reason why this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Coby White and Josh Giddey are going to be hugely important in what the Chicago Bulls do today. And if the Bulls can get it together and play well, right? When you look at the 3 wins over the Miami Heat, Coby White did average 20 points per game, make no mistake about it, but he shot about 39% from the field, right? And he had 2 games in which he did not make any threes at all. So, we're going to need a Coby White to be locked in. And Coby can be so hot and cold sometimes that this is one of those games where, while Coby's been a lot more consistent, especially since the Zach LaVine trade, this is an opportunity for him to really show, hey, no, I'm like that. I could be this guy. And let's hope that Coby is prepared for that, man, because we know what Coby White has been for this team. We know that he's been the heart of the team at times. When the momentum switches a lot of times for the Chicago Bulls, he's been one of the guys that helped push that, right? And him and Josh Giddey are hugely important to the Chicago Bulls having any type of success. That he just is, right? And so, I had a poll yesterday in which I asked who's going to be the X factor in this game, and I left off Josh Giddey and Coby White because they don't have the luxury of being X factors in this game to me. Coby and Josh Giddey have to be the engines of the Chicago Bulls team today. So that's not to me, I look at an X factor as somebody who steps in an unexpected way, right? Or steps in and does more than what the role usually calls for. Coby White and Josh Giddey's role is to be the offensive engine for the Chicago Bulls team. So they don't have the luxury of being an X factor. They have to step up. They have to execute. We need that, absolutely. There's no questions about it. We need those guys to lock in. And if they can't, it's going to be an ugly day, right? So you're going to need Coby White to be excellent. And one thing that Coby White does well is he guards Tyler Herro pretty well. And if they try to put Tyler Herro on Coby White, that is a matchup that I think that Coby can win on the offensive side of the ball, but he's going to have to attack. He's going to have to look out for that zone defense, and he's going to have to do those type of things. And then you get to Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey's role is so important for the Chicago Bulls team because he is the point guard for this team, and he runs it as an actual point guard, right? Everything goes through him basically. The way that he creates off-his penetration and things like that has been hugely amazing for the Chicago Bulls team. I've talked about it. With his points generated off assists, plus the points that he scored basically since February, he's accounted for over 30% of the Chicago Bulls offense by doing that. That's the type of impact that Josh Giddey has, and we need every single shred of that in this game, right? And so that's a huge part of this. Like, those guys are the engine, as I said. And then to look at this as well, right? You're going to need guys like, of course, You're going to need Modest Buzelis to step up, right? And Modest Buzelis was actually asked about that and asked about this moment and what it means for him. And he said this is from Modest Buzelis. I don't get nervous. I don't lack confidence. Whenever you get to play for something and compete for something, it definitely fits my nature. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't. That's Modest. That's what your rookie is. And in that same poll that I asked about who's the biggest X factor, the options I gave was Modest Buzelis, Kevin Huerter, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips. Modest Buzelis walked away with 65% of that vote, with almost 1,500 people voting in that poll. So, people around, the Bulls fandom also see why Modest Buzelis can be so important in this game, right? And to break that down, Modest is the player that can do a little bit of everything defensively, right? How he helps protect the rim, especially with a player like Bam Adebayo, who, by the way, regardless of how you look at Bam Adebayo and his offense, Bam in wins against the Chicago Bulls over the last three to 6 games that we played against him averages almost 20 and 10. And while Nikola Vucevic averaged scoring, less than 12 points against Bam Adebayo in possessions that Bam guards him. That's not against the Miami Heat overall. That's possessions where Bam guards him, which is still a lot of possessions. But there you go on that one, right? That's another matchup that this team's going to happen. And Modest Buzelis actually matters a lot to that matchup. If the Heat try to go with starting Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo out there, and they may have to bring Highsmith in or somebody like that, having somebody that has to stick with Modest Buzelis out there on the perimeter, that's going to open up the Josh Giddey and Coby White to get to the lane and penetrate, right? And to try to score off their drives and things like they like to do there. Modest is a key player in this one. Him and Kevin Huerter both are, right? And by the way, Kevin Huerter got 30% of that vote in that same poll as well, with almost 1,500 people voting because, again, Kevin Huerter is a huge part of this Bulls team, right? When you look at games where Kevin Huerter hits 3 to 4 3-pointers, 3 or more, I guess is the better way to word it, 3-pointers, the Bulls they're like 14-1. Maybe it's like 14-2, something like that. That's how important Kevin Huerter as well is when he stretches the floor and play his role. Like, Kevin Huerter is absolutely an X factor as well. The way that he's gotten in gear defensively for this team, right? The way that he can stretch the floor with the 3-point shooting, keeping teams honest, that's hugely important in this game as well for the Chicago Bulls. So you need these guys. And Vooch, I tell you what, right? Whatever you say about Vooch, he had a down moment there, a bad down stretch where he wasn't as engaged, he wasn't as efficient, but he's really kind of, since the month of March, right, about halfway through the month of March, has really started waking up some for the Chicago Bulls. You're going to need him in this game. You're absolutely going to need him in this game as well to keep Bam or Khalil Ware honest, because if you don't, especially Khalil Ware with his ability to protect the rim, it can get a little bit hectic there for the Chicago Bulls, right? So you got to do that. And the Bulls are going to have to play into their identity against the Miami Heat. The Heat are a team that likes to slow it down. Now, they're able to slow it down because of the defense that they play, but Josh Giddey's saying this: our identity is up and down the court. It's not a secret. Everybody knows the way we play, right? And yes, everybody knows the way that the Chicago Bulls play, second in the league in pace, but how can you stop it, right? And that's what the Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat are going to be trying to gear up and get this one done. Billy Donovan saying this: I think it's critical for their development. I think it's really important. Let's talk about how important and what can be gained from this game and from a potential postseason run, right? And that's what it comes down to. He also said this: what about the years that you don't get there? Is it just failure or just meaningless? Or how do you find value? I found for myself personally as a coach, it's incredibly amount of value coaching these guys. It's been a lot of fun. It's been unbelievable right from day one. And we've all talked about Billy Donovan and how much better he's been coaching, and the offense has looked. In the defense, that more so goes to Wes Unseld. We're going to need every bit of that today against the Miami Heat. And so hopefully the Bulls are geared up and ready to go. If not, it can get very ugly for the Chicago Bulls. But I want to talk about some of you guys know, I don't predict wins or losses. I don't do that, right? That's not something that I do, mainly because the Bulls have been so bipolar since I really started doing this show. But I'm going to make some predictions on what the Bulls do need in this game. Josh Giddey, who has talked about this postseason run being a redemptive arc for him, right? And we know he's dealing with the wrist injury. Those type of things are there. It's going to be there. Josh Giddey's already said that it's not going to be something that heals during the season. He's going to have to wait to be addressed till the offseason. But I'll tell you this: Josh Giddey is he averages a triple-double against the Miami Heat this season, and he's going to need that. I'm predicting Josh Giddey for 25, 11, and 10 tonight against the Miami Heat, and the Bulls are going to need every single bit of that. Josh Giddey's going to have to step up hugely in this game, and he's going to need every single bit of that. and the way that Josh Giddey creates off that separation. And I tell you what, when you look at the Miami Heat's roster and the players that they can put out on the perimeter to defend Josh Giddey, there's not really a lot of those guys there. Now, one thing that they do have is Wiggins, who has stepped up defensively in some playoff series in the past. Not necessarily has not done that consistently, but you've seen that, and you know that he can. If Erik Spoelstra can motivate Andrew Wiggins to have to lock in defensively, it can cause some problems for the Bulls, whether it's Coby White or it's Josh Giddey. But they're going to have to make a decision. Are you starting Highsmith? Where are you going to put Highsmith at, right? Is he coming in for Alex Burks? You're going to move Wiggins down to the 3. Playing those matchups, right? That is something that Erik Spoelstra is going to do. He is going to try to play those matchups, and who they put on Josh Giddey is going to make all the determination, and that is where also Coby White comes in at with his ability to do what he does, right? So Josh Giddey, triple-double, book it for the Chicago Bulls tonight. Listen to what I said. Also, I do think that this is a game where we're going to see, we've seen games before where Coby locks in defensively. We're going to need that, right? And I think that Coby, if they put Coby on Tyler Herro, Coby can guard Herro. And so you look at their possessions this season when Coby has guarded Herro, he's done a pretty solid job, right? But I also think having Modest as the weak side defender when Tyler Herro does try to drive, if he doesn't just stay out there on the perimeter, that's going to be a thing to watch as well, right? So this is an important game for the Bulls. We're going to see what they're able to do. Let's hope that they're able to lock in and get this dub tonight, right? Now, if the Bulls do win this game, they move on and take on the Atlanta Hawks. We do know that now. That's been locked in here with the Atlanta Hawks losing to the Orlando Magic. I told y'all I did not want to see the Bulls take on the Magic, right? But with that, we know that the Bulls have split the season series with the Atlanta Hawks this year, 2-2, right? The thing with that is we have not played the Atlanta Hawks at all since the trade deadline. Our last game against the Atlanta Hawks this season was January 15th, 2025. So that was before we changed the makeup of the team. So there's not really a lot of data to go off on as far as this version of the Chicago Bulls team. But if the Bulls do, right, looking ahead a little bit, right, which I want the team to focus, I can look ahead because I'm on this side of the microphone. But if the Bulls do go on to take on the Atlanta Hawks, they're going to have to make sure that they're locked in. Part of it is stopping Trae, right? We saw Trae get really frustrated in that game against the Orlando Magic. And some people even labeled it that he quit on his team, right? He got ejected in that. That's what you're going to have to do. We know we don't have the best perimeter defenders on this team, but you're going to have to stay locked in and engage. And Josh Giddey will have to use his size advantage over Trae Young. If they even put Trae Young on Josh Giddey, they're probably going to try to put Dyson Daniels on there, which then you're going to try to hide Trae Young on Coby. If you do that, you're either going to try to hide Trae Young on Coby or Kevin Huerter in that series, or in that game. It's not a series. And I feel confident about us being able to exploit that no matter what. You got to hunt out Trae Young in those matchups. You got to force him to be a defender and force them to keep moving their defense around. Attacking Trae Young is going to be really important in those games against the Chicago Bulls. Now, in those games against the Atlanta Hawks, every game that we played against the Hawks is always close. It always comes down to the wire, things like that. And that's what you want to see again in that game against the Hawks. But again, not looking too ahead to that, because the Bulls got things that they definitely need to focus on in this here matchup. But overall, here's the thing: I feel pretty good about the Bulls having a possibility to come out the play-in, right? The question that I want to ask here is that if the Bulls season does end tonight against the Miami Heat, to you, right, your own personal feelings, does that make all the fight and everything that the Bulls had over the course of the season, does that make it mean less to you? To me, no, right? I look at everything individually. The way that Coby and Josh Giddey were able to develop, the way they were able to build their chemistry, what we've seen from Buzelis, the roles that Kevin Huerter and Tre Jones, when he was healthy, have played for the Chicago Bulls, none of that takes that away. It would be an unfortunate end to the season, but that is what playing basketball is about. It's one game, and any team can get hot for one game. You just got to hope that it's going to be your team that executes and is prepared to get that done. But again, that doesn't always mean that it goes your way. So to me, and I already seen it, I already know some Bulls fans that the Bulls do not come out of this play-in tournament, or if they lose tonight, it's going to be like, oh my God, here we go again. The Bulls suck. We should have tanked. I know a lot of people had tanking dreams for this team, but the Bulls looked at that and said, we're not doing that. That's not what we have an interest in doing, and they didn't do it. Now, you're going to let the lottery fall where it is, and I think that's just what this team embraced. That's what this team decided. Once they got all their first-round picks, right? And AK's basically alluded to this. He said, one of the goals was getting our pick back. We ended up getting a trade where we got our pick back. And I think that's really informed how well the Bulls are just like, hey, let's just go into this, right? And so, whatever happens, happens, right? We're going to be here covering it. We're going to be live during the game as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned in for that. That's going to be extremely fun for us to be locked in during this game. So y'all can make sure you follow the channel. We're going to have fun there. This is going to be a fun exercise for the Chicago Bulls. And I say exercise not to mean that it's academic, but to mean that it's a lot of mental preparation that you have to do. There's a lot of testing yourself as players and men for this type of matchup. There's a lot of that, right? You're exercising that bone. Who has it, right? Who has that? I want to get it, and I want to push myself and my team to go further in this playing game. Who has it? That's what I'm looking for in this game for this team. And let's see that the Chicago Bulls are ready and prepared, and we'll see. Now, if the Bulls somehow do not make it out the play-in tournament, or even if they do make it out the play-in tournament, the Bulls still then will eventually, when their season ends, will shift towards focusing on the draft. And I think that the perfect front court forward mate, right, for Malice Buzelis officially declared for the draft yesterday. Now, this is not the only guy. You guys know I still love Rasheer Fleming. I was a big JT Toppin guy as well, but he's going back to college, so for whatever that's worth. But Colin Murray-Boyles is a player that I really love, a sophomore, 6'7", 245 pounds. He averaged 17 points per game, basically 8 rebounds on 58% shooting from the field last season. Also, the three-point, he went from, he hit only 26% from 3 last year, but that's up from 0% his freshman year. I don't know how much of a three-point shooter he's eventually going to develop into, but he doesn't need to, right? I personally see Modest right now as a 3, right? I know he's playing the 4 for the Chicago Bulls, but if you get Colin Murray-Boyles in here and his ability, he averaged 1.2 blocks per game over his career, 1.3 steals per game over his collegiate career as well. You get him in here, right? And you now have one of the things that I've kind of I've been concerned about with potentially moving Malice Buzelis to the 3 was that he's not going to be able to get the same block shots. I think if you have Colin Murray-Boyles out there with him, he's a guy that really can play really good with Modest. So this is a guy that I really like. Now, it depends on where, this would be more of a pick if the Bulls do make the playoffs. He, right outside the lottery pick, in which way you try to look at him going. But this guy has drawn comps to like Grant Williams, Danny Fortson, right? Things like that. He's physical. And while he's no slouch defensively, what he can also do offensively is amazing. 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan. I already know there are going to be some Bulls fans that are triggered and say, small ball, Haize. But I think when you come down to it, his footwork, amazing, right? Those type of things. He can take on smaller defenders easily, right? And even some larger defenders, what he's able to do. This is a guy that's a very young prospect as well in this draft. And with his frame and all that, listen, it's there, right? Some concerns for him as well is that he's kind of undersized, right? Of course, that's a thing there. But I think because you're pairing him with 6'10" Malice Buzelis, maybe you can make that work out. I love this guy's skill in this motor. But again, I want to be clear here. I'm not putting him over guys like Rasheer Fleming or anything like that. This is more so if the Bulls do make the playoffs and then have to pick right outside the lottery. Another guy, since we're talking about perfect mates next to Malice Buzelis, if the Bulls don't make it out the play-in and they do still have a bottom lottery pick, Noah Essengue, I believe is how you pronounce it, the small forward, power forward out of France. A lot of you guys have been telling me to look out for this guy and watch his tape. And I spent the last week really reviewing a lot of his tape. And you look at this guy, he can play either forward position. His defensive upside is outstanding, his defensive upside. And that's a thing with it as well, right? A 6'9", 6'10", legit there. I like this guy even more than Colin Murray-Boyles for sure. I just don't know if he's going to be in the Bulls' range. I do think this is a guy that could definitely rise up in the draft as well because of how young he is. He's only 18 years old, right? But if you're able to add him, he's not going to start right away, make no mistake about it. But the fact that he can guard multiple positions, right, that's a thing for him. He's mobile enough as to switch and guard down as well on switches, things like that. The two steals per 36 minutes as well is a really big thing there. I think you get him and Malice Buzelis playing the passing lanes is really good. Both really good rebounders as well. He absolutely crashes the boards also when it comes down to it. So he's not really doesn't have, well, you see how he develops as a scorer. He's only 18. But the defensive, offensive 1-2 punch with Malice Buzelis and Noah Essengue, I believe is how you pronounce it. Probably mispronounced his name. I'll get that before I start doing my draft. But a lot of you guys have been asking me to cover this guy, and I did. And listen, I'm thoroughly impressed by him. He will definitely be somebody that I talk about in probably my first draft video. So look out for that one, man. That is crazy. Listen, I love it when you guys put me on, people. Not gonna lie. This kid, I love this kid's motor, man. I love his motor, and I love the potential fit with Miles Buzelis. Again, that would mean that the Bulls aren't going center in this draft, but we'll see how things shake out there. But more in-depth draft analysis coming after the season. I just wanted to talk about those two guys here because they're two I'm very, very interested in, right? But with that said, we got one voicemail that I want to get into before we go. This one's from Red.
Yo, what's up, Haize? What up, Aunt? This your boy, Red Man. You feel me? AKA Cast for the Friendly Ghost. But long story short, I'm coming to you about this right here. What we need to be focused on is going into this game on Wednesday. Because we have knocked out Miami Heat 3 times this season. So this game is like the biggest revenge game. Like they can knock us out the 9th seed and keep us from moving past that win in this game. So what I want to say is, oh yeah, and shout out to Shay too, because he was right about why we focusing on the big players now. To be honest, all of them, he right about that. I feel like that opinion was correct. It was perfectly put. We don't need no superstars. We already got potential superstars that we need to still develop, that we need to still work on. Coby White, Josh Giddey, Jalen Smith, Marcus Buzelis. You feel me? And then anybody else we pick up in the off season, yeah, that would come in putting up good numbers, 15, 10, 9, or 15. It could be 16 points. Even if it's 13 points, it'll be a step up, but I understand, like, that's still a little low, but it could be 13 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds. For a big man to come in, I don't think that we should get somebody like Giannis or Sabonis, none of them. I think we should stay what we doing, keep on building, because who knows how this draft pick might be. We got a lot of potential this year in the draft league and coming from college. There's a lot of deadline trades, but I wouldn't go for nobody like we Zach LaVine type again, no. So all I want to say is, basically, what do you see us doing this upcoming game and this upcoming draft pool? Like, what do you see is going? Do you think on your end that they're going to try to shoot for somebody big to try to see how the chemistry will work out with the Bulls? Or do they think, if they bypass the big men, because like I said in the message, there was a lot of trades up this year, a lot of contracts, a lot of free agents going to be eligible this year. So what that's going to bring to the Bulls' future is what I want to know, basically.
Bulls winning 3 games over Miami means nothing. And that's just my personal opinion, right? We've seen us have regular season success against teams, and in the postseason type play and atmosphere, it doesn't really mean anything. And especially because it's one game, you got to lock in for that one game, right? So, we'll see what happens there, but the Bulls just got to stay focused. They got to stay engaged, and they got to trust their game plan, and they got to be prepared for the Miami Heat because Eric Spoelstra is going to throw some things at them that they didn't see in the regular season. Now, as far as the Bulls, I don't really know what the Bulls are going to do in the draft. I'd have to wait till the draft orders finalize, where the Bulls are picking, look at the combine before I really kind of say where the Bulls are going to go. It does seem like a guy like Essengue could fall to where the Bulls are going if they want to go center, right? But like I talked about to some other prospects, you can try to find the long-term forward mate. That's if the Bulls really aren't really looking at Patrick Williams as a starter going forward, or Julian or Dalen or something like that. But I definitely think that that's an option that they can do as well in the draft. So we'll see what happens there. As far as the free agent class, this year's free agent class is cool. 2026 free agent class is where it really is. And I think that with the Bulls having another full season without making significant changes, really seeing what Coby is, really seeing what Josh Giddey is as a full season coming into that season together, their roles not changing again, that's where you can try to supplement and figure out what you're going to do in free agency. And the Bulls have a lot of money potentially in the free agency of the summer of 26, where they can even throw some money at a restricted free agent and try to get those guys in there. So I think that the summer of 26 is really where you're probably going to see the Bulls if they're going to make a swing That's when they're going to make it. I don't think this summer, with us only having a certain amount of roster spots open, we'd have to make several trades where teams take back more players than we take back to even open up a roster spot for a significant free agent. And I just don't see AK doing that many maneuvers this offseason personally. But we'll see what the future does hold. And when the Bulls do decide to get very aggressive on the free agent market. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.